Hi everybody, it's Nikki, and I am here to do another video that is my personal experience, personal opinion, not to be used as medical advice. I'm doing this one this morning because I have been awake for, I should have figured, about an hour and 20 minutes waiting to drink my coffee. And I'm actually doing an experiment this morning, and it's a stay in auto mode experiment. Because there's been this debate going on, and it's painful for me to watch. I mean, it is, because I started getting out of auto mode a couple of months ago, a couple of hours before I get up. And the reason I've been doing it is because I was able to see that even though I was waking up at a blood sugar of a 140, 150, 160, that it was a packed 140, 150, 160. I've explained that in other videos. It has to do with the calibration factor, and I can show you kind of quickly what I'm looking at. But I've been getting out of auto mode, and I've been going into my morning with a very stable blood sugar, and I've been using my calibration factor to kind of guide how I drink my coffee on that particular morning with great success. So here I am this morning sitting at a 183. I did insulin at 9:45 a.m. I did 3 units of insulin, and I haven't had a sip of my coffee yet. So I'm doing this on purpose because I would like to show people, for me, and I understand it's only for me, but that this is not Dawn phenomenon. I haven't had it in 2 months, or however, I don't know the exact amount of time I've been doing the getting out of auto, but it's been long enough that I haven't had this. And now this morning, where I've stayed in auto, I do have it. This is not Dawn phenomenon on just this particular morning. This has to do with what auto mode did in the couple of hours prior to when I got up. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing a lot of it because I've been tracking my calibration factor. And this is what I'll show you from this morning. When I woke up this morning at 9:58 is what time I took my information down. My SG was a 122, my BG was a 140. I could go back and show you the days where my SG has been a 116, my BG has been a 116. That's because of getting out of auto and letting everything stabilize. Well, this morning, that's not a huge difference, but that's a difference, and that's that delay. So my SG was a 122, my BG was a 140. I did 2.8 units of insulin, and that was to drink my coffee. My calibration factor when I woke up was a 5.98. That's a packed 140. So I know what I've been doing with my calibration factor. I know that I'm not going to start sipping my coffee at a 140 and 5.98 because that 140 is going to jump. So in this case, I decided, I knew I was doing the experiment, but I said I'm going to just try to use my calibration factor and still get through the morning, even in auto, and just see if I could deal with it. So I decided to wait. Long story short, my calibration factor continued to rise to a 6.37, to a 5.94, to a 6.06. I mean, it's staying up. That should be falling because of all that insulin on board, but it's not. And over time, what was happening is my blood sugar went from a 140, 153, 155, 166, 172. It's continuing to rise because, and it's scribbled because I haven't had my coffee. But those are my notes from what auto mode did between 7:49 a.m. and really I said 10:24 because it continued to give me smaller microboluses. But what I'm trying to show is that auto mode delivers a reduced insulin basal rate. I understand it's not really a basal, it's what it thinks you need. And it's plugging away, it's doing that all night long. And throughout the night, it's fantastic. I think that most people agree that it does this great job overnight. However, as you start to head into your morning, it adds up. And whatever it did getting you through the night is now setting you up for a rise. Had I not known that this was going to happen, if this hadn't been an intended experiment, I would have been through the roof this morning. I mean, here I am sitting at a 183, and now it's starting to drop. 179, but that was with 2.8 units or 2.9, whatever it was, units of insulin on board, and that was for a coffee that I haven't drank yet. So all of that insulin that I put in for my coffee has gone toward controlling that number. Now, had I not done that, had I just gotten up this morning, done my insulin as usual, and begun to drink my coffee, I would have continued to rise and rise and rise. I also think a lot of people just aren't testing their blood glucose and they're looking at their SG and there is this delay. So whereas on this one, because I had all that insulin on board, it was a steady rise and they actually kind of hung together. If I hadn't had the insulin on board or if I had mixed in the coffee, my blood glucose would have roused really much faster. And my SG would have gotten further and further behind. At some point, my BG would have been and this is even a conservative number, a 250, a 270, and my SG would still be hanging back at like a 180, or a 166, or, I mean, that might be a drastic, it might be a drastic example, but it might also not be. Anyway, my point is that when you're just looking at the SG, you're not necessarily seeing what's actually happening, and then you're going into your next meal or whatever it is. So now I'm 6 minutes into this. This is what I'll say. I am continuing to wait for my coffee. At this point, I have 1.7 units left. I'm back in manual mode. I've been in manual mode since 10:50. Manual mode is now pushing my regular insulin. So auto is no longer giving me those adjusted micro boluses, although right now I think it would probably would be giving me the full amount. But now I know I'm back into the more predictable mode. I know what's going to happen. I am going to come down. And honestly, I'm probably going to have to do my insulin for my coffee when I get ready to start it. This is what I want to show you really quick. From 7:45 a.m. until 10 o'clock, I didn't do the math, and I meant to do the math. But basically, what I received was 0.025, nothing. 0.025, 0.025, 0.05, 0.025, 0.025, nothing. 0.025. This was for the first hour. I did not do the math, but I've done the math on a number of mornings, and that might be the equivalent of 25% or even 35% of my regular basal at that time. Now, the argument is, did I need that in order to stop the crashing overnight? There's no doubt. I mean, I can't argue with what auto mode does for me overnight, but I think that the residual effect is that now I've had some nights, I've had 4 or 5 hours at a significantly reduced basal, and then when I hit it in the morning, I'm moving up, and I can't see that except for the fact that I'm using my calibration factor. If I calculated this, my guess is that for 2 hours, I probably would have been at about a 60% rate, if not lower. And then what was interesting is even when my SG began to rise, my auto mode continued to give me, it skipped 2 of my microboluses, and it continued to give me a 0.025, a 0.05, and then finally, when it realized I was starting to head up, it was a 0.1, 0.125, 0.15. But at that point, it's too little too late. If I were going to continue to sleep and not do anything else, maybe it could save me from that high. But now, unsuspecting, I get up in the morning and I have my coffee, and there's nothing it can do. So that's my argument. I would like to go have my coffee now, and I think I'm going to try, but I am going to do, and I was going to show you really quick, not that anybody's still there, but in case somebody's still there. This was February 17th. This is when I got out of auto 2 hours early. When I woke up that morning, my SG was a 128, my BG was a 129, my calibration factor was a 4.85. So if anything, it was a thin 129. So on that particular morning, I know that I'm gonna do my insulin for my coffee ahead. I always get that big push for my coffee, but I know I'm kind of starting with a thin 129, so I don't have to wait 20 minutes for my coffee. Maybe I have to get on 5 minutes before I start, or I just kind of drink it slowly. I don't take it to the head. The rest of that morning, my blood sugars were 127, 126, 113, 127. I ended up doing a third cup of coffee, not really, like a half a cup, that I didn't do the insulin for. My blood sugar was a